Good evening and welcome to Dumb SEO Questions. Each week we meet to answer the questions that are asked on the SEO Questions community on Google+. With us tonight we have David Rosam, a copywriter for more years than he can count, and 10 years as an SEO copywriter. Masataki you can find David at writingforseo.org. We have Masataki Wasa. Masataki is a Google top contributor on the AdSense and also the Google Plus Help community. He's webmaster of wasaweb.net. That's WASAWEB.net. Micah Fisher-Kirshner is Senior SEO Manager for Zendesk in the USA, and he's a regular on the speaker circuit. Also from the USA, Michelle Deere. Michelle is a social media dynamo and a budding SEO, and has been doing a lot of work gathering our news items for us. Rob Mars is an AdWords aficionado from the Netherlands, and he's also a Google top contributor on the. He's put a link in the in the chat there, but if I click it, Rob, my screen will collapse. But Rob is an AdWords aficionado. You can find him at marketbiz.nl, marketbiz.nl, and he's also a Google top contributor on the AdWords, in the Dutch language, AdWords, Search and Webmasters. I must have got it right because he's not complaining. All right, our first question tonight from the SEO Questions community is from Naboja Jokic. His website has lost some of its ranking. He said, "Hi guys, one of my websites lost some of its rankings and traffic after the 4th of June. According to Mozcast, the 4th of June was turbulent. Does anybody know what happened on that day?" Carl Harvey reports, yes, his too. Nobody? Anybody? Save me.
Well, I know that right before 18 June there was an algorithm modification that we're going to talk about in one of the articles, but it was not that far back in June that I recall. I don't think we had, I don't recall an article on an algorithm update that far back, but that doesn't mean that didn't happen. So there's that.
Yeah, I'm not directly aware of. Nothing's been updated, at least on Moz's website either, for kind of filling that in. Let's see.
No, and was it 4th of June?
Yeah, that's what the person is asking about.
I think that was when Moz did find something, but if you look at Algorithm, that day was pretty quiet.
Yeah.
So I'm not so sure whether that was, if it just is an inverted commas normal day, normal fluctuation, or whether there was something more, what would be the right word, serious, impactful. That's doubtful, isn't it?
Hmm.
I've got nothing. Nabosha, we'll have to move on, but if you want us to do more, please ask us again, and I'll make sure I do some work. All right, our next question tonight, and we don't have a lot, so we can afford to spend some time on these. Yogesh Dewan asked a question on a contact form. How to limit the contact form phone number field according to the following. All phone numbers must begin with the digit 0. The remaining 9 characters must be numeric. Are there any scripts by which we can restrict the phone number field with the above conditions? Sure there are. That's the standard regex. Somebody want to help us here?
I'm just going to make the excuse that I don't know one end of a program from another.
All right. Well, look, let's do it this way. Yogesh, if you PM me, I'll get you a regex to validate your form. Next is from Marty Eigner on directory indexing and 404s. He said, we've changed hosting to a company which doesn't have directory indexing enabled in order to remove unnecessary pages, and have noticed many 404 and 403 errors appearing in Google Webmaster Tools, or I should say Google Search Console. Is this something to be concerned with?
This can be, depending on what pages are getting 404 or 403. You know, it may not necessarily be a bad thing, as Jim's noted here. But if these are valuable pages or you're linking to them, you may want to take a look and see what's going on. You know, so it's just something to kind of be aware of if there are, let's just say, people linking to them, the website's linking to them, then it's just kind of a waste of value if you're highlighting those 404 pages or even 403s, and making sure that it's either A, going to the right page, or B, making sure that you didn't actually lose any valuable pages.
Cool. Anybody else on this one?
Yeah, I think the problem comes from the word errors, because they call it errors, and it's just telling that the page isn't there anymore. So it's not really an error, it's right.
Yeah.
Because the page isn't there anymore.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on to question 4, which is about halfway. Arithmol TP asks, what is Google Review Snippet?
Well, the review snippet is kind of the star and numerical number of reviews that often show up in Google search results. So whenever you kind of are looking for a very specific product, and sometimes you'll see star ratings and how many reviews there are. It doesn't necessarily have to be a product focus, but generally it is. That's the review snippet. Now, that can either come from structured data, specific kind of markup like schema. Doesn't have to. Google does try to make their best guess. You know, but that's usually what leads to most, you know, if you want to specify which ones and everything, if you have multiple groups on a page, that's what leads to kind of what shows up on Google search results.
Yep. That's spot on. Okay. Arithmal, I hope that is the answer you're looking for. Here's one from Alray Resultan, who said, "Greetings. May I ask if how many counts of target keywords, short tail or long tail?" I don't think there is a short tail, but anyway, which are exact match search terms, can be included in a website. I think what Alray is asking is, how many keywords he can fit on a page. Am I the only one reading it this way?
You could read it that way, yes. I'm just trying to think how else I might read it. I think I read it what kind of percentage of long tail to head key phrases, what kind of how many long tail to head key phrases, ratio wise, perhaps. I don't know. Could read it in many ways, and we could debate it at length. It's a how long is a piece of string question, whichever way we look at it. I can tackle it from a point of view of, in the past, we used to say that pages used to have no more than 3 key phrases, optimized on no more than 3 key phrases, ahead, and some less important, 2 less important key phrases. These days, I think there's a lot to be said to just optimize on 1 key phrase, and then put some semantically related terms in the copy. And how many of those you put in depends on the story you're trying to tell and how many semantically related key phrases there are. It's difficult. I would like Alray to rephrase the question so I can attempt to answer the question he's asking, rather than the one I've waffled around. There's a whole question of how do you select a target key phrase. How big is the site? How competitive is a niche, and so on and so forth. There isn't a straight answer to any of the questions I can see hiding in this one. So I think if Alray would be a little bit clearer, or make this question into several more clear questions, I'm sure we can have a good go at answering it.
Yeah, so I think it's probably a good time to give some advice to Alray and tell me if I'm on the right track here. And that would be, while it's true that that things like keywords and on-page and off-page SEO are all important, all relevant, I should say, maybe not so important. But what Alray should be really doing is focusing on his user and writing something that is going to be compelling for his user. And if he does that, because semantic search is all about meaning, if you can convey your meaning to your user, you're going to succeed in your website will succeed. And the keywords and the ranking of those keywords and the ranking of your site, they're gauges of your success. They're measurements that you can use to set key performance indicators. But if you set out to reverse engineer Google, you're bound to fall on your face. And so I think you're focusing too much on the mechanics rather than the shine on the car. Does that sound reasonable?
I, as usual, balk at the idea that if you do anything with key phrases, keywords, then you are automatically not focusing on your user. It gets I'm not waving a finger at you, Jim, but it gets trotted out so much here that you can forget about writing for Google. You should write 100% for your audience. You can, if you know what you're doing, you can write 100% for your audience with an awareness of what will help your results on the search engines. Your awareness of what is like to help on the search engines reflects the interest of the market in products or content. So I think that the two are so intimately related that any idea of this binary thing of either people or search engines, it's something that we should have ditched a decade ago in terms of discussion.
Hear, hear. I like to say it's you write for both, that your users are both human and humanoids. So, I mean, if you think that, you should never write for keywords, then, well then, you should never care about redirects, you should never care about canonicals, pagination, none of those should matter then, because those things are literally only for the search engines. So, of course, you should be caring about, to an extent, of what it's there, because those are what people, for the keywords, because that's what people are using. Now, doesn't mean you go to the extreme for one end or another, but you need the right balance between the two.
I see that Richard Hearn has just joined us from Thailand. I'm looking at the background and guessing Thailand. And Richard is a top echelon conversion rate optimization specialist. You can find Richard at redcardinal.ie. Tim Capper has just parachuted in from somewhere. And Tim is also a conversion rate optimization specialist. He's proud to call himself an SEO. And you can find Tim in the frozen wastelands of the Middle England. Onlineownership.com. Guys, we're up to question 5. We just finished question 5. But look, we're just talking about Al Ray Rosaltan, and he's asking us how many keywords can he put on the page. And, well, more or less that's what he said. And we were just saying that probably now should be the time that Al Ray doesn't bother with that. He uses them to gauge his progress rather than they're the means. They're not the end. Does that make? Am I making sense, or am I rambling again?
I don't think that's quite what Micah and myself said. To the extent that I don't think that you should forget about keywords. I think keywords are a key bridge between your content and what people are searching on.
Yeah, true enough.
You know, the search engines are the mediator between your potential customers and your website. So if you want to cut out the middleman and have people not reaching your site, well, fine, but that doesn't mean that your SEO is successful by my measures.
Yeah. I should have added that Tim, Google is trying to make Tim Capper a top contributor, but he's being very recalcitrant. He won't budge. All right. Next is a question from Sanjay Upadhyay. He said, how to solve these errors, missing, author missing, are updated, appears in Google Webmaster Tools. The website design and developed in WordPress. I see that Edwin Yonk said that is part of the structured markup, which you can test at a URL, which you can see on the SEO Questions community on Google+. And to fix it, you need to look at the theme. By default, WordPress uses microformats. I guess that's answered it for Sanjay. I think so anyway. Let's move on for the next. Another one from El Ray Rizaltan. He asks, is it okay to use those long tail keywords, he says inside the red box, to be my, to be in my SEO target keywords, or use it in the page content? They have no statistic value, but is it okay to use them? Again, I think you might be looking at the keywords meta tag when you're saying to be in my SEO target keywords.
I doubt it. I think what he's saying, Jim, is he's using the AdWords tool, okay, and it's returning keywords that are showing no search volume. And I think probably what he's asking is it okay to use those keywords on his page, even though they have no statistic value, i.e. they have no search volume? And the answer to that is yes, if it makes sense for your page and if it can help people to understand what your page is about. Yes, even though there may be no search volume, it may help with your page itself and with developing the theme of the page.
Yep.
If he read those keywords on a page and he thought that they would help him as a reader, then why not?
Okay. You heard it here first, El Ray. All right, anybody else? Next, we have a question, another one from El Ray. Thank goodness El Ray's about. We've only got 9 questions this week, and El Ray's provided 3 of them. It's headed keywords for hotel. El Ray said, I was optimizing keywords on a hotel page of a travel booking engine. I've used the Fetches Google to index that page. After a minute, I've checked if the page is already indexed, and then I've used the hotel name as a search term in Google, since that is one keyword that I've optimized for the page. The page was shown between on the search engine results page. I I guess he means between the second page and the fifth page. After a day or a week, the page was gone in pages 2 to 5 of Google search. How can I fix it?
You sort of have to feel for El Rey. I think, isn't El Rey the person who was mentioning that he'd sort of been thrown into the deep end?
Yes.
And he's working probably the most competitive and the most difficult niche online, which is travel. And having to learn a lot very, very quickly. There are so many different answers to this particular question. It could well be that what he was seeing was a personalized result after he had searched for something else on the website. It could be that it was a new page and for a while it got a little bit of a higher ranking. It could be just naturally bouncing around the rankings. It's so difficult. The reason I really feel for him is because the end of his question is, how can I fix it? And you have to feel for the guy that he's obviously looking at it. He thought, wow, I've had some success, and then suddenly it's vanished. The honest answer is that he's probably a long way from getting results, and he should just stick with what he's doing and keep working away. And probably, rather than looking at rankings, he should probably just keep an eye on his aggregate traffic coming from Google and see is it trending upwards over time, because he will probably drive himself nuts looking at keywords and rankings and search for hotels. I think it's such a tough one for him, but just keep going with what he's doing, and like I say, just keep on tracking what traffic Google is sending to you in aggregate terms via your analytics, and maybe don't focus so much on the rankings because they're going to be different for everybody. They're going to move a lot, they're going to change, and he's going to waste so much time constantly checking where does something rank.
Yeah. Also, if these are new pages he's put up, I mean, it is commonly known, isn't it, that all pages have a short honeymoon while Google decides their final position, and they get a chance to measure the click-through ratio and the user experience on the page, and then the page will disappear for a while and then reappear later.
Yeah, it's quite possible. It's very difficult to know exactly what they do. There's so many things going on that it's easy sometimes to mistake what you see for X or Y when in fact it's really Z. So yeah, you're right, Jim. And I mean, also, I'm guessing that he's probably in Google a lot searching for stuff. And if you start searching for stuff from a particular website and then iteratively make more searches, they're going to start showing more pages from the website. And what you're seeing is not the natural ranking of those pages anymore. So that's why I think it's important that at this stage, because he's new to all this, that probably he should really stay out of Google SERPs, as in checking his own pages. I think that it will just become so problematic to keep looking in the SERPs. And really what he should be focusing on is his analytics and just looking at his aggregate traffic coming from Google over time.
Yeah.
The good news for this guy is if he cracks this, Jim, I think he'll be a top-notch SEO. You know, if he can manage to do well with this site in this niche, and he can learn what he's doing through this, it's actually probably in his favor that he's learning at the deep end.
Yep. Okay, our last question for the night is on schema microdata from Andres Felipe Echevarria Henao. Andres said, hello, I'm trying to add schema microdata for the products of an e-commerce site. I want to show the price of the product in the search engine results page, but it doesn't show. Can you tell me why? The e-commerce site is in Chile. Thanks. Well, I'd say that Google will sometimes use the description that you put in the header of your page, and if you were to put the price in there, they might copy that, or they'll choose a different part of your page to. It depends on the query that's used to find the page. But finding the price is not usually connected with any other text. It's unlikely that Google would seek it out. See, Tony McCreath has said maybe enhancing the markup with more data will help, e.g. brand, condition, etc. He said, but even then, Google only shows rich snippets for a subset of websites that have the correct markup. But the first step is to check that Google has picked it up. But it's just not like Google to publish prices in the organic search results. We don't see that, do we?
Here's something. It might be something very simple. It might not be, but it could be something as simple as this. If you check the price on his page, it's $104 spot 000, and it could be as simple as there been a third zero there. Now, I'm not saying it is that, but I'd certainly fix that. Like, it looks fine, but of course, does anyone know the currency? Where he's in Chile, is he?
Yeah.
I wonder what is the currency of Chile. Come on, Google, tell me, what is the currency of?
I think it's probably dollars.
Is it dollars?
Chilean dollars. It's either dollars or pesos, but I'm pretty sure
Peso.
it's
Right. Well,
peso?
there's another, because I see price currency CLP, Chilean peso. He's also in the price field. He's got a dollar sign. So it could also be that he's giving conflicting signals in terms of what the price is.
Isn't Chilean pesos?
Does it show as a dollar sign?
Yeah. The dollars, the history of it is actually, I think that the dollar sign originally came from the peso.
Symbol it is, yeah, you're dead right. I see it there. Symbol or dollar. The symbol used. Yeah, well done. I learn something new every day. The symbol used for it is dollar. Yeah.
We're never too old to learn what we don't know.
And I wonder, it wouldn't surprise me also if, I'm just wondering, do they go to 3 decimal places? Well, I've learned a whole lot today.
That part I don't know.
I'm trying to look anyway. But, yeah, there's so many different reasons it may not be shown. Are they showing other data from his page? Is there anything else to show? What has he got on? He's got an image, he's got a name, a description, offers, price currency. I think they really sort of scaled back on what they're showing in terms of sort of rich data they're taking out of pages. They don't show it from anywhere, so.
I think we'll move on from this one. Have we done it to the best of our ability, do you think? Andres, if you'd like us to try again, please do ask another question. But I think that's what we have for tonight. All right, that covers our questions for this week. We've done it again, guys. Thank you very much for your contributions. Now we move on to our news section, and we've got a new segment this week, which is Michelle's changelog. Michelle is going to fossick out things which happened in the last 7 days, or at least things which were published in the last 7 days, and post them in a single post pinned to the top of our SEO news community. And so we'll deal with that first in our SEO news roundup. Now I'm going to scroll these up the page, and I will read a little bit out of them, and if you guys would like to comment on any of them, and I hope you will, if you do want to comment on them, please jump in and interrupt me, and I'll stop scrolling up. The first one came out on the 15th of June on Google testing a slow-to-load warning label in mobile search results. Mind you, I think this is wrong. Mobile friendly and slow to load, and this site may harm you. Really, Google is taking all of the discretion away from webmasters. Is that how you guys see it? Okay. Next one is from Search Engine Roundtable on a developer's breadcrumb link. Google's Gary Ellie's announced on Google Plus that Google has a fresh new technical documentation on the breadcrumb schema for you all. Google, Barry said, also added that Gary also added on Twitter after being asked that the breadcrumb hyperlinks that dropped out last year are not likely to be returning. He isn't aware of any plans to bring back that feature. Any comments?
If you were clever, you'd probably be reading between the lines. If they're not using breadcrumbs for that feature, they must be using them for something. Because why would they introduce new documentation or support a new schema for breadcrumbs? Because they don't do it for any other schemas. So it may be an indication that they might be using this information to determine the structure of your site and how pages relate to other pages. So for a quite small overhead in terms of implementing schema, it would seem to me that it's probably quite a good idea to add breadcrumbs to your site.
Yep. I'm so far behind, I'll never catch up. Okay, next, let me see if I can find the right button to click. Next we have Google AdWords Editor to be discontinued on June 30, 2015. Google announced on Google Plus that they are discontinuing support for the AdWords editor version 10.6 or older. Google is encouraging all advertisers who use the AdWords editor to upgrade to version 11.1 by June 30th, 2015. When I logged into AdWords the other day, I saw that links that we put through a tracking company, those links are no longer valid. They've been deprecated, and we must change them using Google's Tag Manager by the 1st of July. Did anybody else get a notice like that?
Yeah, that's on. There's a sort of general warning on all of the AdWords accounts that I look at. I don't know whether 10.6 and 11.1 or whether 10.6 doesn't handle those links or what. Rob's our AdWords man, isn't he? But yeah, they look very different. The two versions of AdWords editor, and it took me a while to get used to the new one, but I actually like it a lot. It seems that little bit more powerful. I would say easy to use because it took me a while to get familiar with it and use it properly, but it seems nice. Anyway, there we go. I think everyone should upgrade anyway.
Okay. By the way, Masataki, how's it going on Twitter? Do we have any responses? Apparently not. All right, we'll move on from this one, guys. This was just a reminder from Gary Ellis not to add no index directives in your body content. No index directives in your body content. Well, in body content, they'd have no effect. I did read this. It made sense at the time, but anyway. Michelle, look, I'm sorry. I've just discovered a shortcoming in our software that we use to run the questions on the screen, and it does not scroll past this point. I'm trying to get it to scroll, but it won't.
That's okay. I have all the rest ready to go, so I can handle the rest if you'd like for me to. I know it won't scroll, but I can certainly talk about the rest if you'd like for me to.
If you want to, yeah, go ahead. I'll
Okay.
have a sleep. I'll have a sleep and a coffee while you're going.
That's okay. On this Google PSA, I actually wanted to read just a little bit directly from the PSA because it's a little technical here. So let's see. Excuse me. So Gary Elias said on Google Plus, please be mindful with no index directives, and remember that most search engines will honor it, even if it's in the body element. Check your includes, make sure you're not injecting in the DOM a no index directive. I found the easiest way to do this is with the Chrome Dev Tools. And then you can open it up on the page you want to check, and it gives some directions there. So I just wanted to kind of read that a little bit since it's technical. To get the full directions, check out the article. You can see that I've got a link in there. So just scroll on down to that part. Does anyone want to talk about that or make any comments? Okay. All right, let's talk about the next one. This one is number 5. Businesses. Update your business hours, or Google Maps might tell your customers to turn around. And actually, Tim and I had a discussion about this one before I put it out. I believe we did. A new feature has been added to Google Maps, the Google Maps application, when navigating to a specific place. It will tell you if the place will be closed by the time you're expected to arrive. So, for example, if I'm going to navigate to Nordstrom, everybody knows I like Nordstrom, and let's say that I start out at like 8:30 at night, and my expected arrival time is going to be 9:10. It'll be closed. I know it'll be closed by that time, at least here in the States. And so the specific message that I would get from Google Maps, if I need that to get to Nordstrom, is your destination may be closed by the time you arrive. The takeaway here is to please make sure your clients have their business hours set correctly. Just double check that. So does anyone want to make a comment on that? Tim, anybody?
Yeah, I'm yeah, I'm glad they've changed the wording. The initial wording was closing soon, and when they initially rolled this out a couple months ago, with the closing soon, in the Google My Business forum, we were just hammered with people freaking out because it was in green saying closing soon. So people obviously don't read. They didn't see that the closing soon was near the times. They just see closing soon and go mental. They're like, what? My business is not closing. So they've changed the wording now, which is great, and to closing soon, which I still think they need to highlight the actual times. Maybe highlight the last closing time. Let's say it's 6 p.m. Highlight that in red or something. But just because people don't read these days, they scan, and when business owners see closing soon, they freak out. So, yeah. But it's good. More information, better for the user, but they just need to really be careful with their wording.
Okay. Anybody else?
No, push it along a little bit, Michelle. We don't want to get too bogged down on the light and fluffy.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so quote cards in Google search. This one's real easy. If you search for quotes in Google, like Einstein quotes, Google's going to return a card with quotes for that individual. The source isn't provided, or the links to the source, but now you can search for quotes and get a card. So that's that. Customizing campaign data. Bing Ads, when you go into Bing Ads now to manage your campaigns, you can customize your campaign data and save it for next time so that you don't have to customize it every single time you go in. It's a little bit easier to find the columns that you want to add because they're in categories now. You can just add them, and then you can save that set of columns, and then when you log back in, they'll be configured the way that you had them before. So that makes things a little bit easier. Anybody want to comment on that? No? Okay. Right before the 18th of June, probably I think it was on the 17th, there was some chatter about some search engine shuffling. It was just a slight algorithm mod. It didn't have anything to do with Panda. It was just one of the hundreds of updates that they do every year. So just wanted to make note of that in case you notice some search engine ranking mods. Just one of those things. Anybody? Nope. Okay. Okay, Bing moving to encrypt search traffic by default. This one's actually a little bit important because it does affect us. Okay, so this summer, Bing is going to start the process of encrypting all of the search traffic by default. So if you're a marketer or webmaster, you'll still be able to tell which of your traffic comes from Bing, but the problem is that the query terms that are used to get the users there are not going to be included with the information that's conveyed to you. Some query term data will be given, but the reason for this is to keep from compromising the customer data security. So there's 3 things that are going to be provided: search query terms report, universal event tracking, and then if you use the Bing Webmaster Tools, you'll get the keyword and ranking data. And if you want a little bit more information about those 3 items, go and check out the article and you'll get a little bit more information. So yeah, so you're going to lose some data from Bing search. Does anyone want to talk about that or comment on it?
It just that's been finally following Google. Google did this whenever it was, time ago, and now Bing is doing it, and of course it's all to help our privacy online.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So those are all my articles, and if anyone else wants to comment on any of them that we covered, speak now or forever hold your peace. Otherwise, we can move on to question 11.
Thank you, Michelle. This one is an alert from Edwin Yonk to an article by Paul Shapiro. He's talking about semantic search and the meaning of terms. Yeah, okay. I think that's fairly self-explanatory. Any comment? I'm recording that as a no. Next is an article, diversity filtering, from Edwin. It appears that when someone links to another site from boilerplate sections of pages, Google may view that as an indication of low quality for the sites being linked to. It will upset a lot of private blog networks. And if your site provides, he's talking about the, this is the article from Bill Slawski, is it? Yeah. Yeah, about Bill Slawski uncovered a patent on how Google might be determining low quality sites. Any comment on that?
Well worth reading.
Yeah.
Well worth reading. Even if it's not how they're doing stuff, it's interesting to see how they're thinking more than anything else.
Yeah. Bill's not a scholar, but he writes some scholarly work.
Yeah.
He really deserves the acceptance as the interpreter of patents. All right, moving on to the next. Panda continues to be a very resource-intensive update. I know some of us here have theories that Panda's being rolled back completely. And this was a complaint from AJ Cohn, who I enormously respect. He argues that there is the Panda problem. He said, namely, my impression is that Panda continues to be a very resource-intensive update. Personally, I do not see many users complaining about the quality like users did before the first Panda update. In the comments, Dan Shure argues, my hunch is a typical Panda search engine results page is being overtaken by more answer cards in those search engine results pages. Perhaps the 10 blue links quality has gone down, but overall search engine results page quality is up. But I think there's a general feeling that it's certainly time for another Panda update for the sites that have been punished by Panda in the past. Did anybody see AJ Cohn's article that he put out today on what was it? This is shocking. It was 13,000 words on click-through ratio as a ranking signal, and he's contending that it is.
Didn't read. It's a bit long, isn't it? 13,000 words. You want to have some free time?
I chipped him on it on the in the comments. I said, was he trying to set a record for the longest blog post worth reading? But he came back at me and said a lot of it was the patents. A lot of the words came from the patents. But I must admit, I started reading. I was there for about half an hour, and I noticed I was a quarter of a way down the page.
Yeah.
Like all things, AJ Cohn writes. Go ahead, Richard. Sorry.
I was going to say, if I get time, I must read it because it sounds. I mean, the topic seems pretty good, and it's the sort of thing that wouldn't surprise me if they certainly were monitoring that and figuring out if there was a way that they could use that as a proxy for quality in some way. But you'd suspect that it would be a little bit noisy. But then again, they can also monitor if people are clicking back to the SERP. So, you know, I'm sure they do things with data that we can't even dream of.
True. Thanks. As always, AJ Cohn has a TLDR section at every step of the way. And I was thinking a few minutes ago that what AJ Cohn should be doing is using named anchors so that you can click from one TLDR to the next TLDR. Anyway, all right, moving on.
It's funny though, just talking about, sorry, before you move on, that like that last topic was actually about Panda, and his post about Panda and resource hungry, etc., etc. It probably to some extent that the patent that Bill Slawski looked at also is probably in some way related to that, or could be related to that also. So it's worth reading them both. You know, I've said before I suspect Panda and Penguin are dead. That they've probably replaced them with other things, and it's just now a matter of, sort of doing some tidy up to release some of these sites that have been affected by them. I'm sure they've got other ways to filter this stuff now at this stage, and I think that both those particular beasts are gone.
Yeah. All right, here's another one from another man that I respect, Dr. Pete Myers. Edwin Yonk posted titled "Waking the Giant." He said, "Personally, I have not seen any boost or drop after the HTTPS update. Is Google turning up the nudges, or are more and more sites implementing HTTPS?" So many horror stories on conversions to HTTPS. I tell you an experience I had in the last 3 weeks. We had a site which got into trouble through just being too old, and so we just using the skills of the great Andy Wigglesworth. We implemented this. We just basically churned the site using Bootstrap, and I've just noticed this week that the pickup has been probably around about 15-20% overall in the smaller screen sizes. The bounce rate has halved, and the actual amount of traffic going there has improved immediately. It's quite dramatic, and it was only last Friday night that this site was put live in place of the other site, which was struggling. Anyway, there was this article from Dr. Pete Myers, the Colossus update. Where do they get these names? Or that's somebody made that up?
I think he made that up.
Doesn't sound like a Google PR approved name. All right, let's look on to the next, and it's thank you for watching. I see we still have eyes watching us, and we thank you very much for that. Your interest in what we do makes what we do worthwhile. We'll be back at the same time next week to do it all again. In the meantime, I'm going to put a link directly into this Hangout in the SEO Questions community on Google+, and we'd love to have you join us. We won't be on the air, but before and after our recording, we have a green room where we can have a chat, and you're more than welcome to join us. As I said, we'll be back